Hello and welcome to video 3 of module 3, and today's topic is about color correction versus color grading. Now, color correction is the process of fixing mistakes that might have occurred when you are recording, maybe based on the environment that you are in. Color correction will mostly be in the areas of light, exposure, things like contrast, and things like saturation. If you move over to your Lumetri color panel here, depending on what workspace you are in, you will definitely find the Lumetri color panel somewhere. Let me see what workspace I'm in. I'm in the effects workspace. I usually like this workspace because all of these things are listed here. If you click on the Lumetri color panel and then click on any video here, let me use this section of this video. I have the following parameters that I can adjust. One of them is white balance. Now, white balance has two extremes. It has a cold side, which is usually bluish, and we have the other side that is usually yellowish or orangish. We call this warm. So the extremes are cold or warm. Depending on what is in your video or the environment that you shot in, you can decide to add maybe some warmth to the video. If you shoot sometimes in the afternoon and it's cloudy, your video might be a little bit cold, so you can add some warmth. Now, warmth also works with some skin types. So if you boost this a little bit, it can add a little bit of pop to the skin tones and also to your environment. We're going to skip these two here for now, and then we're going to move over to our exposure. So exposure will be the amount of brightness that your camera captured while recording this footage. So if you take out all of the exposure, you notice that your footage almost looks dark. And if you go to the other extreme, you notice that it is too bright. Now, you can reset this slider by just double clicking on it. If this slider is here, if you double click on it, it will be reset to default. Now, do we have any problems with the lighting in our footage? Personally, when I look at this, it does not have any lighting issues, but I can decide to either slightly boost or slightly drop it. My personal preference for this exposure would be to slightly drop it, just very so slightly, ever so slightly. We can move on to our contrast. The contrast is the difference between the bright areas and the dark areas. So if we move it to this side, you notice our footage looks whitewashed. You can reset that slider by double clicking on it. And if you move it to this side, you notice we have a very big difference between bright areas and dark areas. So this one is advantageous if we push it to this side slightly, again, slightly. Do not memorize the numbers. Check on what you're seeing on your screen. And then for our highlights, these are going to be the areas that are reflective of light. Now, if you notice the area around my cheeks and my forehead, if I boost this, those areas become bright. They become very bright. And if I was to take them out, you notice the footage looks flat. So this is helpful to have, but not in a very big quantity. So let's slightly drop it. Now, if you're also going for a look that looks as if you have blush, you can push it to this side. You can slightly push it to this side. So let's just drop this slightly. Our shadows are going to be the dark areas that were not directly cast with light. So if you push them to this side, you notice it becomes very dark. And if you push it to this side, it becomes whitewashed. You notice they are opposites. When you go to highlights and shadows, opposites. So let's drop this a little bit. Let's slightly drop this up to here. And for our whites, these are areas that have been whitewashed with light. If light cast on my cheeks and it was too much, it becomes white. It just becomes white. Now let us reset that slider, double click on it, and let us slightly drop it, just slightly, so slightly. Our blacks are the black areas in our footage. Check my hair. Good. Now the same way you can have too much white or highlights, you can have too much blacks and you lose definition. When I push this to this side, you cannot tell where the strands of my hair are. It is just a black mat. So we do not want to have too much of this because we are going to lose details in the blacks. If you also go in the other direction, you get this look that looks whitewashed also, but it has a black tint over it. So let us just slightly push this to this side. Now, the changes that we have made here for basic correction are what we call color correction. These ones mostly include exposure, contrast, shadows and highlights, and whites and the blacks. We are just working with light. Is something either too bright or something is too dark? That is all we are doing when we are working with color correction. And the idea is to get your footage to an area where it looks very natural. Now, to move over to color grading, we are going to move over to this tab called Creative. This tab is going to be used to load what we call lookup tables, and those are just parameters for different color metrics. And a lookup table simply defines different quantities for different color settings. Now we are working with color. Now, if you look up here, we have this option for look, and we have all of these options that we have been presented with here. Let me try this one called SL Gold Orange. It is going to apply that style on the footage that we have color corrected. And this is the look. The intensity of this is set at 100. That means it is at full value. And you also get a preview window here that is showing you what is happening to that footage. How about we drop this to 0 and then double click on it to reset it to 100 and check what is happening on the screen. Double click, drop, double click. So we want to see what these extremes are. You can actually push this almost to 200, which is too much. So we are going to go with the 100% value and the 0 value. We want to start pushing from 0, push, until we somehow notice that we are adding that style onto this footage. Now you can check this by doing a before and after. If you come here to creative and then turn this off, you can see we are adding that style. And this style is more of an orange feel. It is applying an orange feel. Check my cheekbones, check my skin tone. Somewhat of a yellowish look plus a little bit of red. Now be careful not to overdo this. We have another format for shooting that is called log that works better with these styles. So that is footage that is not shot in any style. But this footage that we have here was shot on a phone, and that phone has applied its own color science to the footage. So this already has its own style depending on the phone you're using. If you're using an iPhone, a Samsung, Huawei, there is a color science behind that phone. So we do not want to apply this too much because we'll be breaking that color science. So let us slightly boost. I would add it up to there. So let me turn this off. That is enough for me. That is just enough. So check your intensity to not overdo it. Also do not memorize numbers. Just because I've left mine as 25, don't assume that you should leave it at 25. So up to this point, we have done basic color correction and basic color grading. We have a variety of other tools here that we can use, but for what we are doing right now, I just want you to stick to that. Those are the basics. That is an intermediate color correction and intermediate color grade. With that in mind, how can we add this effect that we have added here to all of these other clips? Now, if you move over here, you will notice that only this clip has that effect. So check the clip. What about this one? That one does not have that effect. Let us go back to our clip. Here's our clip. If you move over to the effects control, you will notice that a Lumetri color tab has been added here. If you turn it off, you will notice you are turning off all of those color correction and color grading steps that you have applied to your footage. Now, how do we add this effect to all of our footage? I prefer you use Control X, which is cutting. Control X to cut. Notice it has been taken out from the footage. Zoom out using Alt and mouse wheel. Select all of your clips and Control V to paste it onto all of the clips. Now, all of the clips have that color on them. So this is a beginner friendly way of adding that look to all of these clips. But as we proceed, we are going to learn how to use adjustment layers, which make it very easy to just apply the color grade on all of the clips at the same time without having to add an instance of each of this effect on all of these clips. Notice it is on all of these clips now. If you click on any clip, you'll notice it is added here. So there is an easier way of doing this, but for now, I just want you to do that. Just cut it from the clip you have used and then paste it on all of the clips. I will see you in the next video as we learn how to create our own lookup tables in Photoshop. Now what you can do is go back to the download and install video and download Photoshop and install it using the same steps that we used while we were installing Premiere Pro.